core issue in this case revolves around whether First Bank's refusal to honor the letter of credit is justified. Three key discrepancies were identified, which are the certificate of conformity, the insurance coverage, and the timing of document presentation. So these discrepancies raise questions about compliance with the letter of credit's terms. To analyze this, we rely on the rules set forth in UCP 600, the internationally accepted standard governing documentary credits. The UCP 600 provides several critical provisions applicable to this case, which is the first one, is the Article 5, that emphasizes the banks deal only with documents, not goods or performance. This means the focus is strictly on whether the documents comply with the credit's terms. Next is the Article 14A, that enforces strict compliance. Any submitted document must match the terms and conditions in the letter of credit precisely. On top of that, we also applied the Article 28F2 in this case, which requires insurance coverage to meet the stated percentage, or, in the absence of such a specification, at least 110% of the CIF or CIP value. Next, the Article 6D, also applicable to this case, which mandates that documents must be presented within the validity period specified in the credit. And finally, the Article 16C states that banks must promptly inform the presenter of any discrepancies and provide reasons for rejection. The first discrepancy concerns the certificate of conformity. The letter of credit explicitly required this document to be issued by Plant Inspection Services Australia, or PISA. However, the certificate submitted came from a different agency. According to Article 14A of UCP 600, strict compliance with credit terms is mandatory. Any deviation from the specified requirements, such as substituting the inspection agency, constitutes a material breach. Since this condition wasn't met, the First Bank was justified in rejecting the certificate of conformity. The second discrepancy involves the insurance certificate, which covered only 90% of the goods value. The letter of credit required full value coverage, or under Article 28F2 of UCP 600, a minimum of 110% of the CIF or CIP value when no percentage is specified. This shortfall in coverage represents a failure to comply with the credit's terms. As the insurance document didn't align with the letter of credit's requirements, First Bank's rejection of this document was also justified. The third discrepancy relates to the timing of document presentation. The documents were submitted on 15 December 2024, which was 25 days after the shipment date of 20th November 2024. This exceeds the 15 days limit specified in the letter of credit and violates the Article 6D of UCP 600, which mandates that documents must be submitted within the validity period. Failure to meet this deadline invalidates the presentation. Therefore, First Bank acted within its rights to reject the late submission. In conclusion, First Bank's rejection of the letter of credit is legally justified under UCP 600. The discrepancies in the certificate of conformity, insurance coverage, and timing of presentation violated critical provisions of the credit. Furthermore, First Bank adhered to Article 16C by promptly identifying and notifying the presenter of the discrepancies. This case underscores the importance of strict compliance in documentary credit transactions. Any failure to meet the stipulated terms, no matter how small, can result in significant legal and financial consequences.
The second issue is, was Capital Machinery Ltd accountable for delays in shipment and incorrect export clearance? This issue is critical because FOB contracts require the seller to ensure timely export clearance and present accurate documents to facilitate the buyer's transportation and payment processes. In this case, Capital Machinery Ltd failed to fulfill this obligation, leading to serious consequences. The objective of this analysis is to evaluate their accountability using relevant legal principles and contractual obligations. Now, the case is governed by two primary rules, which first is FOB contracts that obligate the seller to clear goods for export, deliver them on board in time, and present accurate documents. The second is UCP 600, which regulates letter of credit transactions. Among the key articles is, the first is Article 14A, this which requires strict compliance with credit terms. The second is Article 6D, requires document presentation within the validity period. The third article is 28F2, requiring insurance coverage of at least 110% if no specific percentage is stated. So these rules set the framework for assessing Capital Machinery Ltd's performance. Now moving on to the applications. This which I can conclude that applying these rules to the case, we found several breaches. The first is export clearance delays. While the shipment date of November 20, 2024 was within the agreed time frame, delays in clearing goods prevented Jaya Construction from arranging transportation, which in the end reaching FOB obligations. The second is documentary discrepancies. So the first reason is the certificate of conformity was issued by an unauthorized agency, violating Article 14A. Now the second is the insurance certificate covered only 90% of the goods values, reaching Articles 28F2. Furthermore, the documents were presented late, violating Articles 6D. Now, the second is we can see is legal precedent, which Banji Corp v. Products SA 1981, time is of the essence in FOB contracts, making these delays unacceptable. Now, moving on to the decision and justification. Based on these findings, First Bank's rejection of the documents was justified under UCP 600. Article 16C of UCP 600 requires bank to notify the presenter of discrepancies, which First Bank did. Now, similarly, Jaya Constructions also make rejections of the goods was valid due to the seller's failure to comply with FOB and UCP 600 requirements. These actions demonstrate that both the bank and the buyer acted within their rights. So to wrap up, Capital Machinery Ltd didn't live up to the FOB contract or UCP 600 rules, which in the end caused delays in documentary issues. This justified both First Bank's decision to reject the letter of credit and Jaya Construction's rejection of the shipment. Now the key takeaway here is how important it is to follow the terms of contracts and rules like UCP 600. Even small mistakes can lead to big problems in international trade, so everyone needs to be on the ball with compliances. That's all from me, thank you.
So the third issue in this case is the right to reject the goods by Jaya Construction under the Sales of Goods Act 1957, Malaysia, and the same will be determined by whether the discrepancies in the documents and the purported delays constitute fundamental breach of contract. That's the issue that will be discussed in the IREC 3. Okay, we continue to the rules applies and this issue. So we use Sales of Goods Act 1957, which is the first one is under section 13. The goods must match the description given in the contract, and the second one is section 14, which is it's enable buyers to reject good conditions specified in the contract, such as the timing of delivery or compliance with terms are not complied with. So that's the two rules that we use in this issue. About the application of this rule is because the discrepancy in the letter of credit, like the certificate of conformity issued by another agency, incomplete insurance coverage, and late presentation of document are material because they touch directly on the ability of the buyer to secure his payment and fulfill his obligation. So this document related discrepancy represent a failure to meet contractual requirement at first by providing strong ground for rejection by Jaya Construction. The conclusion for this third issue is the shipment had been delayed as a result of improper export clearance by Jaya Construction. Could even be a valid reason for doing so. So subject to proof on this ground. This will undermine Jaya Construction ability to arrange for transport and insurance as required. Thus, the combination of document discrepancy and potential export delay justify Jaya Construction rejection of the goods under the principle that buyers are not obligated to accept goods when fundamental contractual conditions are breached. So that's the third issue, which is the buyer's rejection of goods from the Jaya Construction.